Namaste and welcome to Tridevi Chamunda Mandir in Denver, Colorado. This is Yamajit, and thank you so very much for joining me for our Friday Puja and Satsang. Tonight is part 64. That's right, part 64 of our series on the 64 Yoginis. Tonight we are honoring the last of the 64, Vayu, Veena Yogini. Before we begin, I'd like to start out with a couple of quick announcements. So this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. is our next installment of Kali for Everyone. And this will be a puja and a satsang to Ma Kali, especially Mahakali, as Kundalini Shakti. And then a week from today at 7 p.m., we've got a new month, August, and this will be our monthly Cha healing guided meditation for personal and collective healing. Both programs are at 7 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday. You're welcome to join live on YouTube. And you're also welcome to join us in person here at our temple if you're in the Denver area, 1260 South Xavier Street in Denver, Colorado. I'd like to say namaste to Joza, who is joining us right now. And anyone else who happens to be signing in, please feel free to say hello using the chat function on the bottom of your screen. So Vayu, this is going to be kind of a lengthy satsang because I'm going to be saying more about the overall structure of the Chausati, that is the 64 Yogini temple in Hirapur in the Indian state of Orissa. And this is the particular collection of 64 Yoginis that we've been honoring in this series. So Vayu Veena Yogini is one of those 64 yoginis worshipped at the 9th century Chausati Yogini temple. The temple was rediscovered in 1953, and although there's very little surviving mythology about her specifically, her iconography and also her position within the temple are distinctive and meaningful. According to published descriptions of the Hirapur sculptures, so the name is Vayu Veena. She's listed typically as the 64th Yogini, at least in some commonly used identifications of the Hirapur circle. She is standing not in a typical Dvibhanga dancing pose, which so many of the other Hirapur sculptures are positioned in. That's a starting position in classical Indian dance. In her, when we look at her carving at the temple, she is actively dancing and very much in the dancing form of a dakini. And so we see in her a form of the divine feminine that is very active in nature. She's two-armed. Her vehicle or vahana is a black buck, a type of antelope. Her hair is braided and swept to the right side, so her energies, that is her Shakti, are dedicated to a specific purpose. She's richly adorned with jewelry and large earrings. And her pedestal, and I'll show you this in this other photo, she is flanked by two kalesh, or ceremonial water pots. And they seem to be issuing forth some kind of substance, possibly wind. And I'll be saying more about that when we explore the nature of her name. The kalesh, the water pot, is also associated with cleansing and ritual devotion as well. The symbolism of her name is generally interpreted as Vayu, as the name for the element of air, wind, movement, the breath, prana, the subtle energy of the body, the life force, and the air element in general. The Veena is a classical Indian stringed instrument. It is the instrument of Ma Sarasvati, the Shakti of Lord Brahma, the creator. The Veena represents harmony, sacred sound, also known as nada, and also is associated with learning and refined spiritual awareness. And Sarasvati, who this Yogini in this form of the Divine Mother is obviously closely linked, is associated with creation, the arts, and learning. Every school that I ever taught at in India or visited in India and Nepal had an image of Sarasvati somewhere on the campus, sometimes even a full temple to that goddess. Taken together, Vayu Veena, the name, may symbolize the union of breath and sacred sound, an idea that resonates with both tantric and yogic practices, where control of prana and mantra are central. However, this is also an iconographic interpretation, not a story preserved in any surviving scriptures. No known epic or Purana or Tantra provides a detailed legend devoted to a yogini known as Vayuvina. Many of the Hirapur yoginis are known primarily through their sculptures rather than extensive textual descriptions. So their meanings are reconstructed from their names, from their attributes, their mounts, the instruments that they may be holding, and ritual context rather than any complete myths that we might have. That being said, here's how practitioners and scholars might interpret her symbolism. Beginning with the first part of her name, Vayu, air or prana. In Tantra and Hatha Yoga, Vayu means both air and the subtle vital currents, the prana vayus, that animate the body, the energies that animate the body. Mastery of prana is central to practices such as pranayama, that is meditative breath, mudra, ritual gestures, and kundalini sadhana. And this would include such practices as Kriya Yoga. And I'm going to be saying a little bit about that later too. The movement of prana is considered the force that awakens and carries consciousness through the subtle channels or nadis, and also the 7 chakras. The second part of her name, the Veena, the sacred sound. The Veena represents more than just music. It symbolizes nada, sacred sound, the subtle inner sound that many tantric and yogic traditions regard as a manifestation of consciousness. The strings of the instrument can be viewed as a metaphor for the subtle channels of the body, which must be tuned through practice, through meditation, through asana, through sacred breathing. Harmony in the instrument parallels harmony between breath, mind, and awareness, also between body, mind, and spirit. Again, it is the instrument of Ma Sarasvati, the Shakti of Lord Brahma, the creator. In the beginning, Lord Brahma brought the universe into being by uttering the primordial vibration Om. And Om is the seed of all mantras. And I really like that particular creation story because it really reminds me a lot of the Big Bang Theory. So Vayu and Veena together symbolically, Vayu Veena may represent breath becoming sound, prana expressing itself as vibration, the harmony of movement and stillness, the transformation of ordinary breath into spiritual awareness through disciplined practice, the process of creation on all levels, and the origins of the universe. And in addition to that, the manifestation of ideas as well. creation on all levels. In some yogic traditions, as the mind becomes quiet and prana, life force, steadies, practitioners can report perceiving subtle internal sounds, what's known as anahata nada, or unstuck sound. And this can include flashes of insight or personal revelations from the divine. And I had one this morning that is going to be related to our practice this evening. The name Vayu Veena naturally evokes this relationship between breath and the inner resonance. Although there's no surviving text that explicitly states she governs this process. There's a strong connection to Kundalini, and we're going to be talking about Kundalini more on Tuesday. Within a symbolic framework, Kundalini is awakened through the refinement of prana. As prana enters the central channel, or Sushumna Nadi, which runs along the length of the spine, tradition has described profound shifts in consciousness, sometimes accompanied by experiences of subtle sound. Vayu Veena can therefore be seen as embodying the integration of breath, Vayu, and sacred vibration, Veena, on the path of inner awakening and ultimately union with the divine. The 64 Yoginis were part of initiatory tantric traditions, and much of their ritual meaning was transmitted orally. Modern symbolic interpretations can certainly be insightful, but they're not always traceable to surviving historic sources. So it's important to distinguish between what is documented in text and what is later interpretive framework, and I'll attempt to focus on that throughout tonight's satsang. So that includes that there is no universally accepted symbolic sequence for the 64 yoginis in Hirapur. It's one unique listing of 64 forms of the divine feminine. Unlike a mandala with an accompanying explanatory text, the Hirapur temple has no surviving manual that explains why one yogini follows the other, or what the sequence might signify. Modern numbering 1 through 64 is simply a way scholars use to catalog the sculptures that are found in that temple. That being said, tantric scholars and practitioners have proposed ways to understand this arrangement. So, as we've discussed before, the Hirapur temple is circular. And let me grab a photo here showing the temple. So it's circular, and there's an opening gateway, and the overall shape of the temple very much represents either a cosmic wheel or chakra, the cycle of creation and dissolution, and the complete manifestation of Shakti in her many forms. The temple itself, with its single entrance, looks very much like the yoni base of a Shiva lingam. So in a traditional Shiva lingam, there is the lingam stone itself representing the masculine or the dynamic principle, and it is seated in the yoni-shaped base, which represents the female or receptive principle, so dynamic and receptive, masculine and feminine. Each yogini in the temple, and we see 60 of them along the outer circular wall, expresses one aspect of the divine feminine rather than functioning as separate goddesses. They can be viewed as facets of a single dynamic power. So if Vayu Veena is understood through her name, Vayu, again, the movement of breath, movement of life force, Veena, representing vibration, resonance, and ordered harmony. Within the symbolic circle, she can be seen as embodying the principle that consciousness moves through vibration. In many tantric systems, creation begins again as a subtle sound or nada, om, carried by the movement of prana, and this interpretation fits naturally with her name, although it's not explicitly stated in surviving medieval texts. A practitioner might read imagery like this in the following. The antelope, which she is seen standing upon, is the wandering mind and the constantly moving force currents of pranic force. The Veena is tuned. It's a tuned, harmonious state achieved through disciplined practice, and the Yogini standing above or upon the animal signifies mastery, not suppression, of those forces. So instead of trying to stop movement, Tantra seeks to refine it. Breath is not rejected, it becomes meditation. Sound is not ordinary noise, it becomes mantra. Movement itself becomes the vehicle for awakening. In Kundalini yogic practices, this symbolism also aligns very well. Untrained prana is considered to be scattered like a startled antelope. Though through breath regulation, mantra, and concentration, prana is steadied. And as prana stabilizes, awareness becomes capable of perceiving subtle vibration. And the music of the Veena symbolizes this harmonized state of consciousness. From that perspective, Vayu Veena is less a goddess of music in the ordinary sense than an embodiment of breath transformed into awakened awareness. Much of our understanding of Vayu Veena's functions also come from her image, position, and position within the Hirapur temple itself. So several points worth considering. The central pavilion where her image is found, and I'm going to show you a closer image of that central pavilion, which is in the center of the temple. The Hirapur temple is not just simply a ring of 64 equal deities. Scholars understand it as a mandala or a yantra in stone. The outer circular wall houses the majority of yoginis, 60 of them, while the central part of the temple, known as the Chandi Mandapa, forms an inner sacred circuit. Thus, the yoginis and their male counterparts placed in this central structure occupies a more significant position than the ones in the surrounding ring. So Vayu Veena's name suggests dynamic movement. Again, the Sanskrit word Vayu becomes associated with air, winds, and prana, Veena with the conduction of sound, hence the employment of air towards a specific creative purpose. She's a deity embodying the movement of pranic energy naturally, and this fits an intermediary position connecting the center with the circumference. So the inner yoginis, the four in the center, probably performed special ritual functions. Unlike many other Hindu temples, Hirapur seems designed for esoteric tantric ritual rather than ordinary public worship. The inner platform was a ritual focus where initiatory ceremonies probably took place, maybe visualization practices or offerings also may have occurred. The yoginis nearest the ritual center may therefore have represented guardians of the mandala, channels of specific energies, or attendants surrounding Bhairava, the wrathful form of Shiva, the ultimate, and also Shakti, the ultimate feminine creative energy. So I mentioned that the Hirapur temple was rediscovered in 1953. And in the very center of the Chandra Mandap, there was a statue of Lord Shiva. Sadly, this statue disappeared not long after the rediscovery of this temple, but this image of Bhairava, or the wrathful Shiva, and here's an example of Bhairava, also known as Lord Bhairab, carved into this Kapala. So the central image may have looked something like this individual, or others have interpreted the original image as being a form of Martanda Bhairava, who this is a modern image of, and he is a form of Lord Shiva, wrathful Shiva, connected strongly with the sun. And as we've discussed in the last couple of previous installments in this series, a couple of the other goddesses in that central pavilion also have strong solar associations. So in that context, Vayu Veena's placement may indicate a specialized liturgical role rather than a higher status in the theological sense. Because the arrangement of the goddesses in the temple isn't purely sequential, researchers have long observed that the Hirapur yoginis are not arranged according to an obvious order that we can interpret or discern looking at any of the scriptures. The order of the sculptures appears carefully planned, but follows symbolic relationships known more to the planners and the builders of the temple. If one interprets the temple as a living mandala, Vayu Veena may symbolize the circulation of life force between the central divine reality and the outer cosmos. Wind is considered an invisible medium that connects everything. Breath links the body to spirit. Air fills the open roof temple. Movement links the stationary center with the rotating circle of yoginis. If we look upon the design of this temple as a chakra or a wheel. So from this perspective, placing Vayu Veena in the central structure rather than in the perimeter could emphasize her role as an energetic mediator rather than just simply another member of the 64. Also, there's a strong, again, solar relationship to the other three yoginis whose location is in the center, and rather than the outer circular wall. And so it could be that those designing or constructing this temple understood the relationship that we learn about in middle school and high school science about the energy of the sun and the generation and movement of winds. And of course, with the movement of winds comes the movement of clouds, the movement of tree branches, the movement of plants and other blades of grass. It's the wind generated by the sun that pushes a ship through the water as well. So, from a scholarly perspective, there's no consensual exploration, no consensus specifically for Vayu Veena's position. Art historians generally discuss the central pavilion as representing the inner mandala devoted to Lord Bhairava and the principal goddesses, but they don't single out Vayu Veena with a definitive interpretation. There's a leading scholar on the subject, Vidya Deheja, and in 1986 she wrote a book, The Yogini Cult and Temples, a tantric tradition. And this remains really the foundational study for the Hirapur temple. One of her most important contributions was to show that the architecture was not simply a circular gallery of 64 equal goddesses, but carefully organized ritual space with distinct zones. So, in essence, the temple is organized in concentric ritual levels. Dehaja observed that Hirapur originally consists of 60 yoginis in niches around the circular wall, then a central pavilion with 8 niches, 4 occupied by yoginis, one of those images is missing, and 4 forms of Shiva in his wrathful form, or 4 Bhairavas. And rather than treating all 64 yoginis as a single ring, she interpreted the arrangement as an inner and outer hierarchy. Later scholars, especially the American religious scholar Shaman Hatley, also developed this idea further by describing the temple as a stone mandala. And this stone mandala consists of Shiva at the bindu or center of the mandala, that statue that is now missing. Then an inner circuit of 4 yoginis and 4 forms of Shiva. Then the outer circuit of 60 yoginis. And then on the outside wall of the temple, there are 9 external guardian goddesses on the outside. There are 9 forms of Durga. And if this would be a good time to mention that I'm actually going to be expanding this series from the 64 yoginis. So next time we return to the Hirapur temple in a couple of weeks, we're going to do a puja and satsang for Lord Bhairab or Bhairava, the wrathful Shiva, and some of his forms. And then we'll do a series of pujas and satsangs on the 9 Durgas. So the inner 8, 9, counting that Shiva statue, figures are functionally different. Dehaja didn't argue that the 4 inner yoginis are simply more important than the others. Instead, their position, she said, suggests that they belong to a different ritual category. The outer 60 create a cosmic cycle and complete the yogini chakra, the wheel. The 8 inner figures participate directly in the temple's sacred, central sacred action, rather than simply completing the numerical total of 64. They are the hub of the wheel, around which the outer circle revolves. The Bhairavas are crucial in this place. One of Dehaja's important observations is that the 4 Bhairavas occupy half of that central pavilion. And this is significant because Bhairava is traditionally the lord of the yoginis. The central shrine, therefore, expresses a theological relationship. Shiva, Bhairava, forms at the center. Then out from there, corresponding yogini sharing that intimate inner space, blending with their 4 male counterparts. And then the remaining yoginis forming the encompassing circle of divine power. And this is far more of a structured composition than a simple collection of 64 independent goddesses. So returning to what this may mean for Vayu Veena, if Vayu Veena is indeed one of the 4 yoginis of the central pavilion, as Dehaja's book indicates, her placement likely reflects ritual function rather than rank. So, several possibilities come from this idea. She may represent one of the yoginis who mediates between Shiva and the larger yogini circle. She may embody one of the principal energies required in the mandala's activation. Think again of the energy of the sun propelling the movement of the winds. The other scholar, Shaman Hatley, and several more recent scholars connect Dehasia's architectural observations with tantric ritual manuals. They suggest the temple was intended to be experienced as a three-dimensional yogini chakra. The practitioner then would symbolically move from the outer pavilion outside the temple, which is dedicated to the worship of the sun, then walking around the outer temple, paying reverence to the outer guardians, the 9 Durgas, a continuation of this series. Then through the inner circle, the 60 yoginis, and then to the inner cube of the 4 yoginis and 4 bhairavas, and thus arriving at the bindu, the center of the mandala, that Shiva statue that used to be there, and this indicating the source or the origin of everything. So the temple experience was therefore thought to be a journey, a spiritual journey from mundane existence to the source of all creation and to the center of divine force. So, among the 64 yoginis, Vayu Veena is especially intriguing because wind or Vayu and breath prana are classic tantric symbols of movement between levels of reality and levels of consciousness. And again, while no surviving text says that this is why she stands in the inner pavilion, her placement is certainly consistent with a deity associated with the circulation, transition, and subtle energy. Like so many other of the yoginis in the Hirapur temple, there's no widely attested traditional mantra preserved in publicly available historical sources for Vayu Veena. Many of the yoginis of this temple are known primarily through their sculptures rather than individual mantras. And if they did exist, they may have been transmitted orally within specific tantric lineages or have been lost to the ages. So, a respectful way to honor her tonight in a devotional or contemplative practice like we're going to be doing is to use a simple Sanskrit invocational mantra based on her name. Om Vayu Veena Vinaye Namah. Om Vayu Vinaye Namah. Om Vayu Veena Namah. And that's going to be our invocational mantra tonight. The meaning of that is salutations to Yogini Vayu Veena. We could also add the syllable I'm or Aing to that mantra, being a seed syllable associated with Ma Sarasvati, who carries the Veena. Om Aing Vayu Veenaye Namah. Om Aing Vayu Veenaye Namah. Om Aing Vayu Veenaye Namah. And this is the mantra that we're going to be using for our Puja mantra this evening. And then early this morning, I had a revelation myself as I was waking up that an even more appropriate mantra for Vayu Veena, if she's associated with Sarasvati and therefore Lord Brahma, and her association with the breath and mantra being employed toward creation, would be the simple primordial syllable Om. 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 And so for tonight's meditation, as we're giving the fires to the mantra, offerings to the fire, we're going to use Om as that mantra as we give each offering. And I would invite you to synchronize the mantra with your breath. So inhale naturally, drawing pranic energy from your crown chakra to the root, to your base chakra, through the central channel or Sushumna Nadi, the central channel of the spine. And then exhale, reciting Om, drawing prana upwards from the root chakra through the crown of the head. This is the basic practice of Kriya Yoga, those of you who might be familiar with that. And as you're moving that energy with your breath and with the mantra, contemplate the free movement of prana and the qualities of clarity, adaptability, and grounded strength, which is symbolized by Vayu Veena. Jema Vayu Veena. Jema Vayu Veena. Jema Vayu Veena. So I invite you to find a comfortable seated position where you can look upon our altar and our image of Vayu Veena with a relaxed gaze. Find a position where your spine can be straight. Maybe roll the shoulders back to open the chest so your breath can be full. And let's begin by opening our breath. Long, slow, deep, yogic breathing. Breathing away the cares and the concerns of the day. Breathing away those anxieties we might have around things that have happened or things that need to happen. Just let those drop away with each out-breath. Breathe those things away as we breathe in a sense of relaxation, a sense of inner peace, and most importantly, a willingness to experience the present moment. And focusing your breath and your attention on your heart center, I invite you to bring the palms of your hands together before your heart. And think of some small issue in your life that is ready now for healing or transformation. This would especially be appropriate for something in your life where you're feeling stagnant or feeling stuck. And you need that little push, that little gust of wind to get things moving again. Maybe that flash of insight, that hidden knowledge that you need to know in terms of where to go next on your path. And of course, you can do this practice for yourself and also somebody close to you. But take a moment and declare a personal intention, a personal sankalpa. Something that you would like the energies, the prana, the vayu of our practice tonight to go towards. And now, to begin our practice, I invite you to join me in chanting the basic mantra, Om Vayu Vinaye Namah. So a deep inhalation for Om. Om. Deep inhalation for Vayu. Vayu. Deep inhalation. Vinaye. Vinaye. Deep inhalation. Nama. Nama. Jema Vayu Veena. Jema Vayu Veena. Jema Vayu Veena. Nama. Om Pavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastam Gatopiva Yashmare Pandarikaksham Sabya Byanta Sushi Om Shuklam Bharadhanam Vishnum Seshivanam Shatobhijam Prasnavaranam Dayat Sava Vignopasantaye Jaganesha Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshvara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Sri Guru Venama Jai Guru Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sagandim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukameva Bandhanan Mature Mukshiyam Amritat Om Namah Shivaya and Jai Bhairava Om Jayanti Mangalakali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Shama Shivadatri Svasvadana Mustute Jayatvam Devi Chamunde Jaya Bhutataharani Jaya Savagate Devi Kalaratri Namostute Jema Kali Devi Prapanote Hare Prasida Prasida Matara Jagata Kilasya Prasida Vishvesvara Pe Vishvam Tvamishwara Devi Chachara Charasya Jema Devi Om Aing Vayu Vinaye Namah Om Aing Vayu Vinaye Namah Jema Vayu Veena. So as I give our puja offerings, I invite you to join me in the mantra Om Aing Vayu Vinaye Namah. 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 Kapura Goram Karunavataram Samsara Saram Bhujagendra Haram Sada Santam Hridayada Vinde Bivam Bivani Saitam Namami Devi Prapanote Hare Prasida Prasida Matara Jagata Kilasya Prasida Vishvesvada Pe Vishvam Tvamishora Devi Chachara Charasya Om Agni Jyotir Jyoti Agnir Sva Agni Jyotir Jyoti Agnir Sva Agni Jyotir Jyoti Agnir Sva. So as we give our offerings to the fire, I invite you to join me in the chanting of the most powerful mantra, the mantra of creative expansion, the mantra Om. And as you chant Om, I invite you to feel a current of energy rising through the central channel of your spine from your base chakra through your crown chakra, as if you're giving part of your essence to the divine. And then, as you inhale after each repetition, bring that energy back down through the crown, through the central channel, back to the root, as if you are accepting a gift from the divine, a gift of divine essence. Om. 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 breathing deeply, meditating upon the fire. Imagining yourself giving those things that no longer work for you to the fire as an offering for personal transformation. Let those things fall away into the fire. And may those transformed energies return to you in the form of light and in the form of heat. Let fear be transformed into courage. Let afflictions be transformed into health. Let uncertainties and insecurities be transformed into confidence. Let poverty and want be transformed into prosperity. Jai Ma Vayu Veena. Jai Ma Vayu Veena. Jai Ma Vayu Veena. Yogini. Namah. So I invite you to sit comfortably with your spine upright, resting your hand on your knees or in your lap, and allow your eyes to close gently. And begin by noticing your personal Vayu, your natural breath. Don't change it. Just simply observe the air entering and leaving your body. And imagine that each inhalation is a cool, gentle breeze moving through a quiet forest. Each exhalation carries away tensions and unnecessary effort. And then I invite you to bring your mind to the circular temple of Hirapur beneath an open night sky. And see yourself walking slowly around the circle of Yoginis until you arrive at the center before Vayu Veena Yogini, the 64th of the collection. She stands poised with effortless balance. Her presence is calm, yet alive with movement. The breeze around her is gentle, and though no one is playing an instrument, you sense the subtle resonance of a Veena filling the space. You notice her antelope. It is alert, swift, graceful. Recognize the antelope as a symbol of restless movement, of breath and mind. Instead of trying to restrain it, simply watch it. And with every calm breath, the antelope becomes more and more peaceful. Its energy remains vibrant, but no longer startles or runs. Now imagine that every inhalation lightly touches the strings of an invisible Veena, a musical instrument within your heart. Every exhalation allows those strings to vibrate with perfect harmony. Listen not with your ears, but with quiet awareness. And let there be silence where there is silence. There may be the gentle hum of your breath. There may be simply stillness. Just allow whatever is present to be enough. And if your mind wanders, acknowledge that thought as it comes and kindly return to the movement of the breath. And silently begin to repeat with each exhalation the syllable Om. 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 And allow the words to become softer with each repetition until they dissolve into silent awareness. And rest for a moment without effort. And imagine Vayu Veena's blessing as the ability to move through life with ease, the ease of the wind and the harmony of a perfectly tuned instrument. And when you're ready, take a deep and clearing breath. And notice the feeling of the ground beneath you. And slowly bring the palms of your hands together at your heart center. And take a moment to acknowledge the presence of the divine within yourself, knowing she is there to lead you, to guide you, to teach you whenever you have need. And take a moment to give gratitude to yourself for taking part in this practice this evening, knowing you can replay the meditation anytime when you have need, or if you know of someone else who would be in need of hearing it. And then slowly opening your eyes. And namaste. Blessings always. Thank you so very much for joining me. Jai Ma. Jai Ma. Jai Ma. And namaste, and thank you. So I want to thank you for joining me this evening. I thought this would be a good evening to bring out the tambura. If you haven't played for a while, use that as part of our meditation. And as always, please take some time for some quiet contemplation before resuming the day's or the evening's activities. I'd like to thank Joza and Jamie and Kim and I hope I say this name right. Akaled Kondaluredi. Thank you for joining me this evening. I look forward to you joining me on Tuesday when we honor Kali as Kundalini Shakti, and we'll be talking more about the mechanics of meditation that night. So have a wonderful night, and Jai Mata Di, Jai Mata Di, Jai Mata Di. Thank you again. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma.